you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April 1st, 2024 Glendale Water and Power Commission meetings. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical issues which have been resolved now. So first item on the agenda.
Item number 1, roll call. Before I proceed with the roll call, and for the record, Commissioner Peterson will not be attending the GWP Commission meeting. Item number 1, roll call. Commissioner Fay?
Here.
Commissioner Kadikian?
Here.
Commissioner Lori?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson, and President Jasmine.
Here. Okay, item number 2.
Item number 2, actions. 2A, GWP Commission elections, President and Secretary.
Okay,
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Jasmine and Commission members. So the president can call for nominations. We can take them separately. We can elect the president first and then the secretary, or we can do them together, whichever the commission pleases. In either case, the president calls for nominations and then there's a vote.
thank you. So why don't we start with the president individually? Is there a nomination for the president?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Alex Fay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And is there now a nomination for secretary?
I can nominate Commissioner Lowry for a secretary.
And I second that nomination.
Okay.
President Jasmine, just to make sure there are no further nominations for either position.
Are there any other nominations?
No.
Okay. So
Test, test.
Mine's working.
Test.
okay, so if we can do a vote, please,
For the president?
for the president first.
Roll call, Commissioner Fay,
Yes?
Commissioner Kadikian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson, and President Jasmine.
Yes.
And now the roll call for secretary.
Commissioner Fay,
Yes.
Commissioner Kadikian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson, and President Jasmine.
Yes. Okay, and congratulations to the new officers, and we can now switch seats.
Thank you, fellow commissioners. Looking forward to serving in this new capacity. Madam Clerk, can we proceed with the next item?
Item number 2B, Glendale Water and Power Commission meeting agenda order. 2B1, motion establishing Glendale Water and Power Commission agenda order.
Thank you. So we have the motion written in front of us in the packet. Have everyone had a chance to review it? And I think we've discussed this at previous meetings, so we're looking for a mover and a second on this motion.
I'll move that we adopt the new order for the commission agenda as shown in the attachment.
And I second that motion.
Great. Before we call for a vote, maybe could you give a
Thank you.
brief summary of the content of this
Yes.
motion?
Thank you, President Fay, Commission members. This matter is on the agenda, as President Fay indicated. The commission had previously considered and discussed moving oral communications to the beginning of the agenda, so that way individuals who are calling in or who are present in person in chambers will not have to wait until the end of the meeting to speak to the commission. One note that I have for myself that I wanted to make sure, with regards to items number 5 and 6, reports and action items, whatever the commission pleases, is that order okay? Would you like to keep reports as number 5 and action items as number 6, or would you like to change those items as well, the order of them? As we have it now, The order on the agenda would be, should commission approve this, it would be roll call. After that, it would be consent items, including minutes. Item number 3 would be commission staff comments. Item number 4 would come thereafter. It would be oral communications. And then we have reports, action items, agenda forecast, and adjournment.
So in summary, we're moving the open public comment to the beginning of the meeting ahead of the meat of the discussion.
Yes, that's correct. We could also, if commission so pleases, we could move oral communications to before consent items. But that would be before GWP commission and staff comments.
I think we've got motion on the floor as written, unless there's any intention to change that. Take it, okay? I think we can call for a vote on the motion.
Roll call. Commissioner Kadikian,
Yes?
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Jasmadarian,
Yes.
and President Fay.
Yes. Okay, so we've adopted that motion, and we look forward to more public comment at future meetings. You won't have to wait around for the whole time. Just come on down and share your thoughts. Moving on to consent items.
Item number 3, consent items. 3A, approval of the October 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes.
So this meeting was a while ago. We haven't met since these minutes were prepared. Does anyone have any comments to adjust the minutes, or we can take a motion to approve them as written?
I move that we accept the minutes as written for October 2nd, 2023.
I second that motion.
Do we need a roll call vote, or can we do this by unanimous acclaim?
You can, President Fay, you can move all of the minutes at the same time and take a roll call for all of them simultaneously.
Okay, so I'll move that both October 2nd, 2023 and November 6th, 2023 minutes be accepted.
I second vote.
Okay, let's have a vote.
Commissioner Kadikian,
Yes?
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Jasmadarian,
Yes?
and President Fay.
Yes.
We also have the March 4th minutes. Those were super brief because we didn't have a meeting last month. So if we could have that voted on as well.
I'll move to adopt the minutes from the March 4th meeting.
I'll second.
Let's have a vote on that one.
I'm so sorry, President Fay. As the president, you'd have to have somebody else make the motion.
Okay. You were there, Roland?
I'll move to adopt the March 4 minutes of the meeting.
I'll second.
All right. Commissioner Kadikian,
Yes?
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Jasmadarian,
Yes?
and President Fay.
Yes. Okay. Any other administrative or technical hurdles we need to stumble through before we can begin the bulk of the meeting? I think we'll start with the commission and staff comments. Mr. Mellon, maybe you'd like to go first?
Thank you, President Fay, commissioners. Only one thing. We'll formally introduce our Assistant General Manager of Water, Mr. Obagolu. Come on up. I'll let him say a few words about himself.
All right, well, good afternoon, and congratulations, President Fay, Secretary Lowry, on your appointments. Chisholm Obigolu, Assistant General Manager for Water Services here with GWP. Started my career here in Southern California with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Was there for about 5 years, so I worked on a number of infrastructure reliability projects. From then on, I went to the city of Glendale, where I was a GM for water services. And so a lot of critical water decisions to be made over the course of the next several years that will inevitably impact our community over the course of the next decades. And so I look forward to working with your commission on that. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any comments from my fellow commissioners?
Welcome to Glendale, and we look forward to working with you.
Yes, welcome.
Indeed. Anything else you'd like to add?
But welcome as well. I guess everybody said it, but I've met with Mr. Chisholm. I look forward to his contribution. He would be an asset for Glendale. Thank you.
Okay, great. I believe this is the first time we've met in some time because of scheduling quirks, and we had to cancel our last meeting. And this is the first meeting we've had since we discussed the integrated resource plan. Would you be able to just give a quick status update on where that landed and where we are with the, I guess, implementation of the plan?
Sure. Thank you, President Fay. Yes. So we were directed to accept scenario 4. I won't go into the whole details, but essentially we had to rewrite the IRP to incorporate scenario 4 into that, and we've pretty much completed that. We're in the final draft of that and are preparing for submission to the CEC and hope that we receive acceptance from them.
Great. And would you be able to give a brief summary of what scenario 4 entailed?
Sure. So scenario 4 basically put a lot of emphasis on adoption of hydrogen and the technology being readily available. It looked at a high penetration of distributed energy resources in our system of various forms, and it projected a early adoption of long duration energy storage. All of them are very, I would say, bleeding edge for our industry. I don't know how practical those are, but it was the direction that we received from council.
Thank you for that update. Okay, I believe we can move on to item 5.
Item 5, reports information. 5A, Glendale Water Supply, securing a sustainable water future.
All right, and good afternoon once again. As mentioned, I spent quite a few time at Metropolitan Water District. As a water manager, one of the key takeaways that I've learned over the years is really the concept of having strategic foresight. Oftentimes we deal with initiatives in which we have to think 15, 20, 25 years in some cases, which is specific to our water resources, which are significantly challenged by the impacts of the drought. And so my presentation today will share our organizational vision with regards to how we plan to mitigate some of those impacts. And again, I look forward to your feedback on this presentation. To outline today's discussion, we'll talk about where we are today. So we'll touch on the Colorado River water system as well as the state water project system. These are our two imported systems. And then we'll talk about the recycled water, specifically DPR, or direct potable reuse, and IPR, indirect potable reuse. And then we'll talk about where we go from here. What are the next steps for Glendale? And so to start, I want to contextualize Southern California's water history, and specifically the role that Glendale has played in that water history. When you think about our water history over the course of the past 2 centuries, essentially, 2 things are revealing. Firstly, every 25 to 30 years, so every generation, we've had to go out and seek out a new source of water for the region. This began in the early 1900s with the LA Aqueduct. The city of Los Angeles at the time, their chief engineer was William Mulholland. He had the strategic foresight to tap into the Owens Valley to develop the LA Aqueduct. This was around 1904 to 1912. Of course, Glendale was incorporated right in the middle of that in 1906. And at the time, the thinking was that this would be enough water supply to last the region for the next 50 to 75 years. However, in the 1920s, just due to the sheer expansion of the region, we needed a new source of water. We were very quickly outpacing the LA Aqueduct. The closest, largest sort of fresh body of water at the time was the Colorado River. However, the city of LA did not have the funding capacity to design and build out the Colorado River Aqueduct. And so that is when they galvanized the surrounding cities. And so you had cities like Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, Santa Monica. There's 13 original member cities that came together to co-fund the Colorado River and form Metropolitan Water District. And again, this was at the time the largest civil works project in the country, Colorado River Aqueduct, $220 million in 1933 dollars. And so again, the thinking was that this would be enough to last the region for the foreseeable future. Then in the 1960s, we had the post-World War II boom, and we saw another expansion of our region. Governor Pat Brown at the time, his administration then tapped into Northern California to design the State Water Project. So the first century was primarily focused on shoring up our imported water systems. However, at the turn of the 21st century, that is when we really started to focus on our local supplies. This came in the form of conservation, water use efficiency, groundwater replenishment. This was also the time that recycled water started to become prevalent throughout the region. And so as we look towards the future, 2024 and beyond, history tells us that we are due for a new source of water. But this time, not because of increase in population, not because of the expansion of the region, but because of the need to adapt to our changing climate and to mitigate the impacts of the drought. And so in this presentation, again, we'll talk about how we as a community plan to do that. And we'll also show some examples of some very critical sustainable projects that's currently ongoing within our region today. So this graphic represents where we are today. This is Glendale's current water supply. Majority of our water supply, about 70%, is made up of imported water from Metropolitan Water District. The remaining 30% is comprised of local water as well as some recycled water. And although this is a minority stake within our water supply, it presents a tremendous opportunity for us to truly expand, diversify, and achieve balance within our water supply portfolio. But first, I want to talk about our imported supplies, starting with the Colorado River. This is a very extensive system. It provides water to two countries, the United States as well as Mexico. And within the United States, it provides water to 7 states as outlined on this map, 10 tribal Indian nations, some irrigation districts, along with some NGOs. So this is a very extensive system. It is a severely over-allocated system. Simply put, more water is being extracted from the system than what is able to be replenished by rainfall. This is evident by Lake Mead. Lake Mead is one of the most critical reservoirs or lake systems on this Colorado River. Lake Mead is now entering its 25th consecutive drought year. This is evident by this photo, and it has dropped a staggering 170 feet since the year 2000. And so switching gears to the State Water Project system, slightly different factors, but the story here is not dissimilar than that of the Colorado River. This is a system that serves about 27 million Californians. Deliveries from this system vary depending on hydrological conditions. So essentially, how much rainfall do we have? And more importantly, how much snow do we have? But how much of that snow is able to materialize into runoff and feed our reservoirs, such as this reservoir here? This is Lake Oroville. Lake Oroville is the largest lake on this system. But the point I want to emphasize with this graphic is the volatility of this system. Again, this varies depending on hydrological conditions, how much rainfall we have. And we get what is known as allocations. If you recall, last year was a great wet year for the community. And so we received about 100% of our requested allocation from this system. The last time we received a decent allocation was maybe 2019. We received 75%. And so the point is, we may get 1 or 2 wet seasons here and there, but it's typically followed by 3 or 4 consecutive drought seasons or drought years. And again, that speaks to the unreliability of this system. So then I beg the question, where do we go from here? We have imported systems that are becoming more and more unreliable, and they make up the majority of our water system here in Glendale. Where do we go from here? First, I want to talk about recycled water, starting with indirect potable reuse. The graphic on the left is what we call IPR. And so I want to run through the process involved in this. Firstly, step 1, wastewater is collected from your homes. So this is water from your showers, water from your sink, yes, even water from your toilets. And that is all gathered and is moved into step 2, which is your conventional wastewater treatment facility. From there, it goes into step 3, which is perhaps the most important step in this process, which is the advanced or the purification process. It involves essentially there's 3 steps: reverse osmosis, microfiltration, as well as UV ultraviolet lighting process. From there, it goes into what is known as natural filtration or an environmental buffer. That typically comes in the form of groundwater. From there, it's then pumped, and it goes into step 5, which is your regular treatment facility, and then that cycle starts all over again. In direct potable reuse, and this is as a result of a modification of the regulations which occurred last year, it's exactly the same process with the exception of step 4. So essentially, we can skip the need for having a robust groundwater system such as Glendale, and we can go directly from that purification process to the headworks of our treatment facility and then start the recycling process again. And again, this is critical and presents tremendous latitude for organizations such as Glendale, which may not have access to a robust groundwater system. And I just want to emphasize, I do believe that there's not one singular solution. It has to be a combination of these two. And again, we'll talk about how we want to achieve that later on in the presentation. But before that, I want to point out some very notable sustainability projects that's currently ongoing. At the top right there, that is a project that's being undertaken by the City of Santa Monica. It's known as SWIP, Sustainable Water Infrastructure Project. This project was completed in 2022. It's a multi-beneficial project in that it collects both wastewater as well as stormwater, treats it, and it has an output of about 1.5 million gallons per day. As a matter of fact, myself and a number of staff from Water was able to tour this facility a couple of weeks ago, and there's so much to be learned, not just from a design and construction perspective, but from permitting, as well as financing, as well as public outreach and education. At the top left there, that is a project that's being championed by LADWP. It's called Operation Next, and the objective of this project is to convert their largest wastewater treatment facility, which is Hyperion Treatment Facility, into 100% reusable. And so that will have an output of about 150 million gallons a day. At the bottom there, this is a project from Metropolitan Water District, known as Pure Water Southern California. This is actually a partnership with Los Angeles County Sanitation District. And this project, again, will convert recycled water from LA County Sanitation District into 100% recycled water. And so that will produce about 150 to 160 million gallons per day. We actually have coordinated to have the chief engineer for Metropolitan Water District, John Benarski, come in and give a detailed report to your commission next month in May on this project. Very exciting project, and so we look forward to that presentation. And so as we look forward to the future, again, these are very, very important decisions that will need to be made. And so we've allocated about $1.2 million over the course of the next fiscal year to undertake a number of studies, starting with a sustainability or recycled water master plan. And so that will really establish a framework to enhance our local supplies by way of recycled water, keeping in mind sustainability and innovation. Critical to the success of that is the development of strategic partnerships, not just interdepartmentally here in the city, but being able to reach out to Pasadena, Burbank, understanding and identifying ways that we can work together in a more accretive manner to achieve economies of scale. And so we have a number of meetings with our counterparts at both Pasadena and Burbank to better understand how we can achieve those partnerships. And then, of course, is the cost of service analysis. This is, again, something that will be undertaken to address two things. Number one is our aging infrastructure. We have almost 400 miles of pipeline within our distribution main, of which over 65% is 80 years or older. And so we have to be able to prioritize and invest in our capital improvement projects to be able to address these aging infrastructures. Secondly is water supply. That's the actual commodity of water. We all know that cost is going up. And this is primarily the water that emanates from Metropolitan Water District. And Metropolitan has projected a 15 to a 21% increase over the course of the next 2 years. And so we certainly have to account for that. And then most importantly, perhaps, is community engagement. Being able to convey our message to our community, our businesses, our elected officials, our institutions, our residents in a manner that resonates with them. This is important for us here at Glendale, and that is something that we will continue to work on. So that is really the bulk of my presentation, and happy to take any questions or remarks at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Again, welcome. Commissioners, any questions for the Assistant General Manager?
Can you explain the water quality testing that you go through for getting water to customers? Because I think there's going to be an issue of, the wastewater being recycled and then it's treated. But what happens? How is that? How do we ensure that that's good quality water?
No, absolutely, and thank you for that question. We have very rigorous testing mandates that we have to meet per the state. And so we collect about close to 5,000 tests on an annual basis, and we test for certain constituents within the water. When the water goes through the advanced treated process, the water is so purified that we actually have to put back essential minerals within the water. We go through every rigorous testing that we do for our regular water as well.
I have no questions. Thank you.
One question that I'm asked a lot when I talk to people about, water conservation, and they always say, we have all this water in the ocean. We're so close to the ocean. Why can't we, there's desalination plants in Santa Barbara and Huntington Beach, and isn't this just the big answer, And can you talk a little bit about that? Because obviously I didn't see any desalination in your presentation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when you think about desalination, really when you think about water along the coast, we have one desalination plant in Carlsbad. And that plant produces about 50 million gallons per day. And so in order to be able to meet our water needs here in Southern California with desalination plants, such as the one in Carlsbad, we would have to develop or build a desalination plant that's to that capacity essentially every 4 miles throughout the coast to be able to meet our water needs. Can it be done? Certainly. Is it practical or feasible? That's the issue. We love living on the coast. We do not want to industrialize the coast. And so it's just a matter of better understanding that it takes a lot of commercialism to be able to develop desal plants. And there are other methods such as recycling water that are just much more feasible. And also just improving our infrastructure, being able to develop stormwater capture projects that will allow us to capture more of these rain and storm waters that we have here in Southern California. So it's not that it can't be done, it's just that there's more practical, more feasible options.
I like how you gave us the context of history in your presentation, and it seems like the first decades that you referenced were really about Southern California's urban populations taking water from other places. And now what you're saying is we have water resources right here that we need to dig into a little bit. So certainly appreciate your comments about recycled water. That's a great resource. And I don't know how to go about getting a bottle of this advanced treated direct potable reuse water, but either you or maybe your friend from Metropolitan, when he comes next month, if you can find a bottle, I would love to drink it. Yeah. Maybe we can share it. Maybe we can stock the refrigerators at GWP's offices and city council chambers and just eliminate any stigma that people might have that this water is any different than any other water. So if you can figure out how to make that happen, I would appreciate it.
I will say, President Fay, during our tour a couple of weeks ago at the SWIP project in Santa Monica, they had a direct output tap where you can actually drink the water. Me and a couple of my staff members actually drank that water. I'm still here standing, and last time I checked, they were still alive. So we're here.
And I would like to join you and drink from that fountain of youth as well. So, I'd like to make that a request, and on behalf of my fellow commissioners, I won't make them drink it, but I'd like to at least have a bottle for everybody.
Sounds good.
The other local source of water that can become a menace each year, especially this year, is stormwater. Sometimes we have too much water, right? So we go from having too much to not enough. I heard you mention that a little bit, but maybe you could touch on where stormwater fits into the broader strategy. Is that its own strategic plan? Is it part of the recycled water strategy plan? How does that fit into the
No, absolutely. So it really is a total sustainability plan. So that includes both recycled water and stormwater. With stormwater, as we know, we have rights within the Verdugo Basin. The Verdugo Basin is, in my sense, it's not a healthy basin in that it's a leaky basin. So even if we were to try to replenish that basin, which we certainly will try to do, there's no guarantee that we can recoup 100% of our water that we input in that basin. But ultimately, President Faye, it's about developing infrastructure to capture more of that rainwater, and not only capture more of that rainwater, but be able to retain and recoup that water when we need it. And so this is, as part of that sustainability plan, we're not only going to be looking at the Verdugo Basin. We have partners in Burbank, and they have storage capacity, storage exchange programs within the San Fernando Basin. We have partners in Pasadena, and they have storage programs within the Raymond Basin. And these are both entities that are tied, along with us, to Metropolitan Water District. So there's really tremendous opportunity and latitude to develop strategic partnerships to be able to capture more of our stormwater, if not in our Verdugo Basin, in the Raymond Basin or in the San Fernando Basin, and figure out how we can offset those demands.
Great, thank you very much. You mentioned the projected price increase from Metropolitan Water District over the next about 20%, you said, in the coming years. So, and the price has gone up in the last 10 years, and probably fair to assume it will continue to go up indefinitely, right?
Right.
As that price goes up, are there certain things that didn't make financial sense 10 years ago or 5 years ago that are worth revisiting that might pencil out now?
Absolutely. And this is really a discussion that we're continuously having with Metropolitan. There is a cost allocation within Metropolitan called the treatment surcharge. As mentioned, we get 70% of our water from Metropolitan. This is treated water. Currently, we pay about $1,500 dollars per acre foot. This treated surcharge is about $643 from what they're projecting per acre foot. And so we've realized several inequities that exist in fundamentally how that treatment surcharge is developed, and that is not being shared equally across the 26 member agencies. So that is certainly one, and that is a discussion that we are having with Metropolitan Water District to figure out how we can come to a collective solution around that. But other than that, President Faye, when you think about fees from Metropolitan, it's primarily the cost of infrastructure that you're paying for. It's the cost to be able to get that water from the Colorado River, all of the pumps involved in that, all of the pipes involved in that, all of the, the reservoir systems and manpower involved in that, not necessarily the commodity of water. And so, we'll continue to work and see how we can best develop our local water resources and what the cost-benefit ratio projected over a certain amount of time will be.
Great. Yeah, I think of that as, from an investment or portfolio perspective, that's our hurdle rate. So if we can come up with a project that produces water for the people of Glendale at less than $1,500 an acre foot or whatever the future price is projected to be, then that's a good project, and we ought to figure out how to go after that. Right?
Certainly.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. We can move on to the next item unless there's any other comments. Oh, one more.
What percentage of our imported water do we get from the Colorado River?
So it depends. Glendale is, the way Metropolitan system works, there's a portion of their system, primarily those on the eastern portion, that can only receive Colorado River water. And then there's a portion on the sort of the northwestern that can only receive state water project water from the north. They're called state water dependent areas. And then the majority of their system is called a blend system, meaning that they can receive both Colorado River water as well as state water project water. And this depends on hydrological conditions. So if it's a year where we have a larger state water project allocation, let's just say 60, 75%, Metropolitan will then push majority of that state water project water as opposed to the Colorado River water. So to answer your question, Secretary Larry, it really does depend on the hydrological conditions, and that varies year by year.
It just seems like with all the different entities involved with the Colorado River, the 7 states and the tribes, and it just seems like it, if it's a large percentage of our water, it might be a little precarious in years to come. Obviously Lake Mead's a good example. I mean, that's a visual of that, but, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I think next up, we have 5B, a report on the public benefit programs.
Sorry about that. Should I go back to the, good evening, President Fay, Commissioners. I'm Aneta Badalian, Acting Public Benefit Charge Marketing Manager, and I'll be doing a brief presentation on our public benefit programs today. All GWP public benefit programs are funded by a state-mandated charge on each electric bill to fund programs in the following 4 categories: cost-effective demand-side management services to promote energy efficiency and energy conservation, new investments in renewable energy resources, research, development, and demonstration projects, and lastly, bill discounts and other services provided to low-income customers. Our current public benefit charge rate is at 3.6% of electric revenues. Our annual public benefits programs and budgets are approved by City Council every 2 years, and our annual budget has recently increased to about $10 million. The first of energy saving programs that we have for our residents is the Home Energy Report by OPower. We've had this program since 2009. It provides usage data and personalized insights on energy use to about 51,000 customers via print reports, and about 24,000 customers receive emails. We have, and all customers have access to their energy usage, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly interval data. Customers also receive high bill alerts, weekly energy updates, and also solar updates once they install solar in their home. Customers are encouraged to complete home energy audits, which helps fine-tune the report and also give them customized recommendations. We are working on implementing electric vehicle home energy reports. When a customer confirms EV ownership, the report will disaggregate the usage of the EV from the rest of the home so that they can have a better understanding of how much, of how their EV charging is affecting their overall usage, and they will also be compared to other similar homes that also have EV, so they're not unfairly being compared to homes that don't have that EV charging usage. Also, solar home energy reports is something we're working on, so that solar customers are compared to other solar customers. So that gives them a better understanding of how they compare to other similar homes. Home energy and water saving rebates, again, this is something we've had since 2001. It provides incentives to promote purchase of high efficiency energy and water saving appliances and devices. I'm not reading the stats, but you can see it on the slides, the report of how much we've spent last year, the number of customers that we've served, and how many, and what the savings have been that have been associated with each program. Home Energy and Water Upgrade Program, again, this is a program we've had for a long time now. It was put on hold at the beginning of the last fiscal year. We're relaunching our Home Energy and Water Upgrade Program as of next Monday, April 8. This program helps residential customers save energy and water through a home energy audit and direct installation of energy and water saving devices. The energy conservation measure categories that have been part of the program are LED screen light bulbs, LED tube lights, Tier 2 advanced power strips, motion sensors, appliance timers. On the water side, faucet aerators, shower heads, dual flushometer retrofits, and sprinkler head replacements. We are expanding the measures this year to include LED wall packs and floodlights for exterior lighting, weatherization, window film, and other measures that we will be considering as we finalize the list. The Tree Power program has been around since 2004. It provides single-family customers with 3 free shade trees and arborist guidance. And I'm happy to say that we had an uptake in this program last month. We had 34 site visits, which is higher than the usual 13 to 14 visits per month. The In-School Energy and Water Conservation Education Program provides an energy and water education program for 6th grade students, the teachers, and their parents. Through the online lessons, program participants realize ongoing energy savings from the new energy-efficient products in their home and behavioral changes with respect to conservation efforts. So students take home a bag of energy efficiency measures that they install in the home and report back, and we know actually what was installed and can estimate deemed savings based on that. There is one upcoming energy saving program that we're planning on launching next fiscal year. It's the Early Replacement Electrification HVAC Pilot. It will provide screening to determine if the system qualifies for early replacement. There will be rebates to install new Energy Star rated HVAC systems. The rebate will range from $1,200 to $1,500, and there will be a higher rebate when converting to an all-electric heat pump. That will be the rebate will be $3,000. On this slide, you see the energy savings that we've. The participation history of these programs that I just went over. As you can see, it's been pretty steady overall. The non-participation of the in-school energy and water conservation education program, you see that was during COVID when the program was closed down due to schools being closed. And we have a number of low-income programs, first of which is the Glendale Care Bill Discount. We've had this since 2008. It provides eligible low-income customers a monthly discount of $20.50, which comes to about $41 per bill since we bill bi-monthly. That amount will go up to $23.50 as of July of this year, and then it'll go up to $26.50 next July of 25. The Helping Hand program assists eligible low-income customers who are experiencing a temporary financial emergency, like an unexpected medical expense, a death in the family, or unemployment, and are having trouble paying for the utility services. Qualified customers receive an assistance of $150 that can be applied either towards their bill or a deposit. There is a limit of 1 assistance per 12 months. The Guardian programs is one of our oldest programs. It's been around since 1999. It provides a monthly discount, bill discount for household members using doctor-prescribed medical equipment. The discount is based on the estimated electrical consumption of the medical equipment, and there are 3 levels of this assistance based on that usage level. We have one upcoming low-income program. It's the Glendale Reduced Energy at Home. The program will provide low-income residents with a home energy and water survey to identify potential energy and water efficiency upgrades. The program measures will include all the measures that are currently in the home energy and water saving upgrade program that I went over, plus additional measures such as appliances. We haven't finalized the list of measures that will be included in this program yet. It will be launching next fiscal year. And you see the participation history of low-income programs. Again, it's been steady. There has been a slight decrease in Glendale Care participation, possibly due to move-outs and incomplete recertifications. We have one business program in our PBC portfolio. It's the Business Energy Solutions Program that, again, we've had for a long time now, since 1999. It provides incentives for medium and large businesses to complete pre-approved energy-saving retrofit projects. Participation in this program has gone down since the launch of our Business Energy Upgrade Program, which is a direct installation program, and it's available to all commercial customers. But this program is there for those scenarios where the direct installation program does not work for the customer for different reasons. We have one upcoming business program. This is going to be exactly what, well, not exactly, but similar to what we have for our residential customers with OPower. It's going to be the Business Customer Engagement Portal. It will provide business customers web access to their electrical usage information from their AMI meters via green button download. It will empower customers to monitor and manage their energy usage. There will be proactive alerts and energy updates, seasonal or quarterly reports. In case of residential, it's bi-monthly. In case of business, it will be quarterly reports. There will be bill comparisons, disaggregation, so businesses can understand, once they fill out their audits, exactly what uses what, so they can have a better understanding of what their consumption habits are. Saving tips, business profile, demand heat map, bill usage forecasts. So there'll be a lot of information that will be available to business customers that we currently don't have. It will hopefully also increase program participation. Other programs that we'll be launching, or the current programs that we have for businesses, they'll be a good tool to put that information out there. And this is the 10-year participation history for our Business Energy Solutions Program. As you can see, as I mentioned, participation has gone down due to the uptake in the direct installation program we launched as part of our clean energy portfolio. We have one sustainability program, net energy metered solar energy storage interconnection program. Customers are able to interconnect their net energy metering eligible solar systems and energy storage systems. We've had Power Clerk, the online tool for application submittal and processing since 2016. And you see the number of permissions to operate that were issued last year. This is the highest we've ever had. And I was actually looking at the latest numbers, and it seems like we've had 333 in just the last 9 months, which can be estimated to have about 444 systems in a year. So we will end up with a higher number of permissions to operate issued once we close the fiscal year. And you see the 10-year participation history here for solar and energy storage installations. And you see the increase in the last couple of years in the number of solar systems that have been installed. We have one modernization program that will be launching in the new fiscal year, Behavioral Demand Response. This is actually a program we've had in the past that we're bringing back with OPower. The program targets residential customers to receive electronic IVR and SMS communications, encouraging them to reduce energy use during periods of peak energy demand. About 40,000 residential customers will be included in the program. We will be able to call up to 10 events per year. There will be a welcome letter sent to customers in early June, and the program season will start June 15. The estimated savings per event is about 1.2 megawatts, 1.2 megawatts per event. And these are the links to the different programs that we have based on those categories. And one last slide, something that's we are keeping our eyes on is the Inflation Reduction Act with its two components of investment tax credits and production tax credit. We will endorse and encourage customers to benefit from these credits once more information is made available. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Any commissioners have questions?
I have a question. if a program is underutilized, do you just stop the program, or do you take that money and put it into other programs that are more utilized, or are they all being, very well utilized?
For the time being, we don't have any program that we've had to close because it's been underutilized. There might be some years where we don't have as high of a participation as expected or assumed. We do shift funds between programs if there is a need to, if one program is more popular than another, but we haven't really closed programs due to underutilization of funds.
Okay. I think all the programs are very impressive. You mentioned you have the 40% rebate has dropped down somewhat in recent years, and you said that was due to, you thought it was due to the participation in the direct install program. Is that because the direct install seems to be more lucrative, or what do you think is the?
It's low lift for the customer. Someone comes in, does the audit, does the work. There's less work for them to go out and get a contractor to do the work for them. So it's
Okay. All
And
right.
of course, it's incentivized by us. So
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any questions over here? Okay. So I think these are a great range of programs. And my understanding is that this program gets approved by the city council at some regular interval.
every
And
2 years.
every 2 years. And where are we in that 2-year cycle?
The last plan was approved July of last year. So
So,
we'll go
so
back.
this is the set of programs we have until July of 2025?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point, it's up to us to come up with any changes, and as long as the city council approves it, we can make changes, we can do whatever we want within the confines of the PUC's rules or the state rules.
Those 4 categories. Correct.
Okay, great. So it seems like for the next year and a half, our goal is focused on effectively administering what's already been approved, yeah?
That's correct.
Great. So I think, yeah, there's a great set of programs here. What I would like to see is that we think about them as a portfolio and come up with ways we can compare them to each other and assess them in a strategic context, right? And rather than we've got, this program's great and here's what it's been doing for the last 10 years. Should we spend more money here and less money here? Should we kill this one entirely and start a brand new one? And that's something that I think there's a lot of data here on the slides that could speak to that, but I don't think we're presenting that. And maybe that's something we can start doing now so that when it comes up to the next 2-year planning cycle, we'll have a really good basis to say, here's why we want to cut this one 50% and double this one.
So, President Fay, one of the things we are doing immediately right now is assessing each of the individual programs. Annette and I have been talking about the strength of each of the individual programs, how well they're performing, how well we're pulling people into them. And that will come, and we'll have an assessment before our suggestions come around for the next period. So we will have some insight into how well they're performing and whether or not it makes sense to continue on with certain programs. And right now, the breadth of all the programs provides a lot of opportunity for people to get in, whatever fits them, whatever makes sense for them to jump into. And that's helpful. Right now, I don't think it has a big impact on how the money's allocated from PBC because we can move that around within the confines of it. Like, we anticipate spending certain amounts of money in certain programs. If we're not seeing the participation we're expecting for the particular program, we're seeing a lot more participation in others, we have the ability to move. So it's not tying our hands, but I do agree that, at some point we will have to thin the herd and take advantage of the strength of some of the programs that already exist.
Yeah, thank you. As I was looking through these, I was trying to think, how would we compare them, and just some things that jumped out to me that we might look at, something like, if we're going to make a scoring matrix for these programs, things like, reach, the number of participants, maybe, or maybe beyond that, the breadth or equity differential of participants, so that we have some participation from homeowners, some are available to renters, that people can participate in these programs. The savings in terms of energy and a kilowatt hour, like dollars per kilowatt hour savings. I think maybe much more strategic for us is the kind of peak power savings, the dollars per kilowatt of peak load. I mean, when we have our meetings in the summer, we keep coming back to that, you know, how much do we pay for that hottest day of the year, right? So it seems like these programs, if we have the flexibility, we ought to align them with our broader goals. So I would say, you know, the dollars per kilowatt saved would be a good one. The degree to which they are a kind of a pain in the butt factor, like how hard is it for us to run them as an organization? Seems like some of these, you know, we write a check to a third party and they do everything and it's easy. And some of these probably require more effort within GWP, so that'd be good to look at. And then I think something like leverage. You know, to what extent are these helping either our utility or our customers get additional money from outside sources? You know, can we help customers get federal funding through their tax credits or some other thing? So can we spend $1 and have $2 of impact, right? So those are some of the things that I was thinking about would be good when it does come time to assess them, and you might have some other ideas as well. But what I'd like to see is at some point before we pitch something over to the city council again, that there is really a strategic framework for why we're doing these programs or these ones, not just because that's how we've always done it. But I did like seeing that there are some good strategic alignments. The home energy savings program, there's tax credit money that can support that, and similarly with the heat pump, the HVAC upgrade. So if we're giving customers $3,000 and they can get $3,000 from Tech Clean California, and they can get $2,000 on their taxes, all of a sudden your heat pump is essentially free, right? So that's great, and like that's where we get good leverage on that. One question on that program though is, why are we allowing customers the option to not put in an electric heat pump? If we have a carrot here, maybe we make our customers reach a little bit more. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I got the impression that you get a certain amount if you replace your HVAC with a new gas furnace, and you get a higher amount if you do an electric heat pump.
Sure. So we've been focusing on, so historically, we've been focusing on just trying to get interest, right? And we're transitioning out of that phase of anything work, try and get interest into, you know, what programs make sense and analyzing whether or not they're effective. In that is the world of what should be the first step we take in trying to help people manage their energy usage. You know, not to, you know, I'm going to pull from Mr. Obagolu for the work he's doing in water. Water and power are both headed in the singular direction. It's use less and pay more. And it's not a comfortable place for us all to be heading, but it is where it's headed. So I think the first steps in any program that we implement would be the assessment, whether or not there's efficiencies being taken care of at the homes and businesses, right? So we talk about whether or not they're using a heat pump. I think even before we even get there is, do they have their windows sealed? Do they have glazing on the windows? Are they dual paned? Are the doors sealed? Is there proper insulation? You know, all these large scale stuff, which is, I believe is part of a program we're about to turn back on pretty quick here. So I agree that we're almost to the point where we need to push those things that are most effective from the electrical side. We have some precursory steps we have to take to try to move people back into the world of, yes, everyone likes solar, everyone likes battery, everyone likes stuff that is paid for them. But we got to get that first step, which is you can do all of this and still have a higher load in your house because you haven't done the basics, right? So we got to take those first steps first.
So I like that, and it sounds like what I'm hearing is we want to require that if before Glendale, the city of Glendale gives you thousands of dollars for a new heat pump, you've made sure you have insulation in your attic, and you made sure your ducts don't leak. Like, is that part of the program that?
Well, I think that's where we're going to start heading. Whether or not we're there right now, probably not, but I think we need to move there. I mean, and I've used the term draconian a couple times, but what we're trying to do is get a level of acceptance, get people involved in the programs, and then we can start talking about the first steps of making sense, and we got to move towards that, especially when we can't guarantee that we're going to meet load in some cases, right? So as we move forward in the future, we got 3 Wärtsilä engines coming online, we got 75 megawatts of battery coming online, and we've got Shoal Canyon all coming in 25 and 26, if everything works out, we're still going to have issues with, possibly have issues with meeting peak load in our system when we need to. So we need to talk about managing load.
Do we see an emergence of a winter peak load?
We do. The higher electrification takes hold, it is the possibility that could come forward. Yes.
Will that be higher than our summer peak load?
I can't predict it right now. Yeah, I mean, I could say that we could look to the east and see how they fare their winters and how there are some states that have pushed electrification on the East Coast and they're seeing real hits in the winter. But you know, there's chunks of the East Coast that still rely on natural gas too for heating. So it's a little different. So it could be very significant as we move towards electrification.
And then as we look about maybe anticipating maybe making change to these programs in a couple year and a half, I see a lot of reports about the numbers of what happened, you know, how many customers, how much energy savings. It's hard to contextualize that without a goal or a target. So I think it would be helpful to see in these presentations, and maybe we need to start by establishing a goal for these programs that we say, over the next year or 2 years, we want to get 1,000 people in this program, or we want to save 100 megawatts. And then we can say, how did we do compared to that goal? I think that would be more instructive for me as a member of this commission on assessing how well these programs are doing than to say, you know, we're 2% better than last year or 1% better than last year. So is that something that you think is reasonable as we manage these programs, that each one can have a goal?
The things that I think are reasonable, not necessarily what you're going to think reasonable, but I will say that if we're comparing it to something like what our anticipated load is, or anticipated megawatt hour usage over a year, annual usage is, and compare that in a percentage form, that might be something we do with an understanding from the commission that if load grows, percentage may have less of an impact. So we have to contextualize it for you.
Yeah, I fully expect we won't hit every goal, but that's important data for us as managers to know if we're not hitting goals, why is that, right? So I think that would be a request I have for looking at these kinds of things in the future.
Okay.
And you mentioned the 4 categories that R&D is one of the available categories that the state law allows us to spend on. Maybe I missed it. I didn't know if any of these were called out specifically as R&D programs, or do we have any R&D programs?
Not currently,
Okay.
no. But that's something we will consider for the next plan.
Okay, that seems like an opportunity where the state gives us that bandwidth, and R&D can be a lot of different things. And not that we need to be inventing cold fusion or some new form of battery, but you know, R&D can be, let's try some crazy idea we saw somewhere else and see if it'll work in Glendale. And it may be a way to give us some administrative flexibility to try different programs and projects by categorizing it as R&D. So that would be another request I'd like to see, that we do something on the R&D side.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. The next,
Thank you.
unless there are no further questions, okay. Next report is 5C, customer engagement.
Commission President Fay, members of Commission, hello, my name is Atine Hartunian. I'm the Marketing Manager for Glendale Water and Power, here to present some information on customer engagement. Our focus here is simple and straightforward. The key is consistency across all of our channels, sharing and engaging with our diverse customer groups, and ensuring our messages are visible, heard, and comprehended. So how do our customers know what's going on at GWP? We encourage our customers to always visit our website. We always have everything updated on our website. It's updated daily, if not multiple times daily. And then customers can click on important announcements, visit the highlights section, or the important announcements section at the bottom here. Customers can also follow us on social media, get information from our customer services department, check their bill or my GWP online portal where they pay their bill, Sign up for our bi-monthly From the Source newsletter, digital newsletter, and also check your email or mailbox for any information from GWP. How do we inform and engage our customers? I've shared this following slide with you in previous presentations. This slide focuses on the different touch points or channels we use to reach our customers. We want to ensure we don't have any missed opportunities to engage with our customers. All marketing and customer engagement or outreach campaigns we develop, we utilize all or some of these tactics multiple times to ensure we're getting our messages out. I've separated this into 4 quadrants and included these channels in each. We don't rely on just one tool to engage with customers. A thorough engagement campaign utilizes many of these touch points and also is dependent on budget and timing. This timeline features some of our recent, not so recent, but community meetings and events. In the next slides, I will focus specifically on a few of these events and give you more detail about the marketing strategies and tools we use to inform and engage our customers. These are some examples of the type of outreach and community engagement actions we conducted for these specific meetings listed here. Outreach and engagement campaigns have to be strategically timed out to ensure that we have enough time and customers see information in different areas, and that we have all of our messaging for our campaign developed and approved so that we could start. We also ensure messaging goes out in a consistent and timely manner, not too early where customers forget the information. Our goal is to utilize all the touch points on the previous slide so that customers are exposed to the information from different sources. So you can see from the different types of tactics we use for one of the meetings or events, there are times we pull everything out of our bag to ensure we've utilized all of our tactics. Direct mail is still the best way to ensure that we have reached every single one of our customers. As expensive as it may be, it is the most successful form of communication for us. That way you have a guarantee your message was delivered and seen. Digital outreach such as social media, our newsletter, our website are easily tracked to see how many page visits we had, the number of opens, the number of impressions, the number of shares, or the number of clicks. Through all digital channels, we provide a clickable link or a QR code so that we can track all of the number of clicks. These clicks lead to the dedicated website we have created for each project or event. Dedicated websites are the go-to customer information, and it could include PowerPoint from meetings, it could include fact sheets, it could include the meeting recordings, or whatever we'd like to have on that go-to page. So even if a customer cannot attend a community meeting, they have access to the information that's on our website. We also provide translations on our website for our marketing materials and have translators at all of our community meetings. You'll notice that I have community partnerships listed on a few of these events. That means we directly reach out to homeowner associations, community-based organizations, chambers, and other organizations within Glendale, and we ask them to share our information with their constituents, members, or tenants. We provide them with digital and hard copies of information to share in an email, newsletter, or post in their common areas. This has been working very well for us, and we really value the relationships we are creating with these organizations. This slide shows the engagement levels for some of our meetings and events from the previous slide. We can't measure customer engagement simply by the number of people that attended a meeting, but just because they didn't attend does not mean they're unaware or don't have access to the information. We know for a fact that customers receive timely information for the IRP, for the rate meetings, and for our solar DER meetings. Through direct mail and on and in their bills, and the level of engagement was high as we monitored website visits, open rates for emails, and engagement. We also look at the number of impressions from our digital marketing efforts. With the IRP and the solar meetings, we had established an email address where customers could email with questions if they couldn't make it to the meetings. We had a high response rate for these emails. We also look at the overall impact we have made with our customers. Have they seen this message in more than one instance? Are they sharing or commenting on social media? Are they emailing us or calling customer services for more information? Or are they visiting the website for more information? So we do track all of this. Our goal is to reach our customers in different ways and inform them and make them aware. If they don't show up, are they aware and they know that we are working in their best interest and building on their level of trust and being transparent? Whether they show up or not is their decision, obviously, but our goal is to ensure they got the message in one way, shape, or form, and that they received it more than once. We are guiding the journey by engaging them through a variety of channels and seeing how they are connecting with the information. So as a CMUA member, bless you, we have access to conducting customer satisfaction surveys for our customers, bless you, from a statewide survey that CMUA conducts. In late 2023, we participated and did our own oversampling of GWP customers. Oversampling is a survey technique used in statistical surveys to increase the representation of certain groups or subpopulations. So for our electric and water surveys that we did separately, we had a budget of 400 responses. We received over 700 responses for our electric survey. So of course we allowed for the extra analysis, and who doesn't want more feedback from their customers? So I wanted to share a few slides with you from that particular survey. This is from the oversample. The chosen slides mainly focus on outreach and communications. As much as I'm not a statistician, I will introduce the findings of the survey at a higher level, but can't really get into the analysis. This was sent to us from our third party, Great Blue Research, so if you'd like to have a full presentation done on these surveys, we can invite them to come into a future commission meeting and they can talk about our electric and water survey and their findings. These few slides are focused on community engagement and how our customers receive and want to receive information. These questions are important to us because we want to be proactive and always make our engagement stronger and better and ensure that we're doing everything to engage our customers. In this particular question, we asked our customers if they would attend a community meeting or event and why not. These numbers were interesting for us to see, but nobody made comments that they didn't have the information or didn't know. And every question had an open comment section, so we did go through all the comments, and those comments did not come up. So in this particular question, we asked the preferred methods of communication that our customers like to receive. Of course, mostly preferred emails and direct mail, as you can see. Digital communication seems to be the most receptive. In this next question, we asked the channels for information about GWP. Where do customers go to receive the information from us? So most of them obviously check our website. The second most popular was the email, and then our newsletter, or they call or check social media. Lastly, this slide does make our efforts of engaging with our customers rewarding in that sense that the information our customers are receiving is about right in comparison to California and the national average among utilities. We know our customers are getting the information, and we're building on performance and best practices as we're understanding what works best, what our customers are receptive to. And this is a process we'll continue to do and build on and take a proactive approach. Seeing a slide like this tells us that we are on track and we know our customers are receiving the information. And with that, I'll just end with how customers reach us. They can always visit our website, as I said, and we've provided the QR codes they can always scan, and we always have these QR codes at any event, any type of outreach that we do. We include it, so it's just a click away to get access to information. And that's all I had. If you have any questions?
Great, thank you for the presentation. Anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much. Another great presentation. Just one question about the solar DER plan. I don't think we've talked about it here at our commission meetings, but can you talk about what the goal of the plan is and how it's going?
You want to take that one?
I think I'll take that. So, first off, thank you for the question, Commissioner Lowry. Second, it's progressing quite well, actually. I mean, I think you saw in the one slide how many people we had at the first 3 community meetings. I think the highest count was 61 for the online. So we had like a Zoom meeting that people were able to attend. The study itself is taking form. So essentially the reason why we had this outreach was to get input from the community and to provide education to the community. I think the initial meeting, there were a lot of people there that were interested in solar, and they were expecting to get solar or find ways for us to do work for them. There were some very interesting conversations that came out of meeting with the communities, some along the lines of looking for support from the utility, meaning having staff help customers figure out what was best for them. That's a little tough conundrum for staff. I mean, we could talk to them about technologies, but we don't endorse businesses or technologies or anything that people need to take on themselves because there's liability associated with it. But in as much as we can, what we did do, we made some modifications to our website so that we're going to add names of suppliers for solar and suppliers for batteries that have worked through Glendale. And we'll have a disclaimer on the site that we don't endorse anyone, but these are people that do business in Glendale and have done installations because we know through permitting that they have. And we're open to adding other businesses onto that list, should they be interested in being part of the selected group. But it sounds like that the community really wants to understand who can do the work, who they can trust to do the work. And I think that's a little bit of extra work that we're going to have to do and help them understand technology so they can make intelligent decisions for themselves. So as far as the study is going itself, it's still being developed. So we're working on that. I don't know how much detail I can go into something that doesn't exist entirely yet. But I will say the community outreach has been, like I said, very beneficial.
And at some point in this process, maybe once the study's completed or farther along in draft, that'll be something that comes to us for a presentation?
Yes, and we'll bring it back to commission to talk to you about it. Now, to be clear, some of the aspects that we're looking at is one, first thing, whether or not we have the ability to meet the goals as they exist and have been presented to us by council, right? The second one is if it can't be reached, the 10% customer solar penetration and the 100 megawatts of peak load shifting essentially, or removal, by 2027. If any aspect of those can't be reached, we're going to look at what part can be reached by 2027 or how long it will take for us to reach all of it, what date we think is plausible. So that's the kind of conversation that we'll be coming back to you with. And then within that, what the plan is to get there.
If the goal wasn't achievable by 2027, would you be presenting other, say, technologies that might be, more feasible, more cost-effective, something like
We
that?
can definitely talk about the different technologies that exist out there. I will say that the potential for a technology to exist has a tendency to confuse people versus them actually existing. So if we were going to address potential technologies, we would provide a timeline for when that potential technology would be made available, as far as what we can see and what the industry is seeing. I'll go back to the IRP. Scenario 4 talked about a couple technologies that are probably not plausible to be in the timeline that would be effective for us to meet our goals that we need for IRP. So that's a conversation we would have to have in depth with the commission at some point.
Okay, because I went to the first meeting, and as you mentioned, I thought it was going to be all about solar. And there was a presentation, and it seemed like they were open to all ideas that the customers had. And at first I was a little taken, off put by that. And then I thought, well, this makes sense because if we're really not going to get there with the 10%, what other things can we do? What other things can, our customers do? And
Right.
and so that was kind of the where my questions are coming from.
I think we want to make sure that commission and council, when we speak to them, is we haven't taken anything off the table. But we're looking at all options. Whether or not the options meet the council's timeline is the biggest question.
Thank you.
Tina, I have two comments, I guess. One, I think this is great, and it's a thankless job because getting people to be excited about infrastructure, which is by its nature supposed to be boring and reliable, is very difficult. So the fact that anybody shows up to a lot of these meetings, I think, is a great sign, and really shows that we're doing a lot to try to, basically give people free money to help make their homes more energy efficient or generate their own power, those kinds of things. And I love the ride and drive and kind of the interactive part of it. And I wonder if maybe there's some way to connect these dots with ask your neighbor about solar. Like maybe the department can't endorse a particular technology or vendor or whatever, but we could host a fair and you could have people who've installed solar who say, yeah, I'll show up and I'll answer questions for an hour. I would be happy to do that, to describe my experience to neighbors, and you probably would too, and you guys too. So maybe that's something we can do that's not, it's a step removed from the department actually endorsing any of the particular recommendations. We're just kind of facilitating.
We call those champions of the community. We used to do that with water conservation when we had turf transformations done. We'd have neighbors come up and talk about their turf transformation. And so we could certainly apply that to solar and other programs.
Yeah, at the very micro level, people's neighbors are always watching what's going on. And so, I know when we first got solar at our house, a lot of my neighbors said, hey, who'd you use, and that kind of thing. And maybe there's a way we can institutionalize that at a city level. And then on the direct mail, the only comment I had is I got one piece of direct mail from GWP right in the middle of the election season. And I was like, oh, this is a very expensive thing that most people are going to throw away, just because there's so much other junk mail during that time. So that would just be a note for future campaigns. Let's just try to avoid getting caught up in the raft of junk mail that comes out during elections. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, if you don't mind, there's a few other things that I'd like to take note of since we were talking about marketing, and we have quite a few events coming up. And if it's all right with commission, if I mention a couple from the market.
Please, yeah.
So one is we have a job fair. Marketing will be there at Glendale Community College on April 4th. We have electric car guest drive on April 6th. We actually recently had one. That'll be at the Civic Center parking lot right over here. This is our second one that we're doing. It was a very good event. It actually drew a lot of people there. So I want to make sure that you were aware of that. And let's see. Girl Scout Innovation Electric Badge presentation on April 15th at Dunsmore Elementary. We have Glendale Memorial Earth Day Fair on April 17th at Glendale Memorial Hospital. We have City's Earth Day Festival on April 20th at Verdugo Park. And Earth Day Festival for Franklin Elementary on April 27th at Franklin Elementary School.
Thank you very much. Our next presentation is 5D, Fleet Electrification Impacts on Infrastructure.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we got the impacts of fleet electrification and the impacts on infrastructure, and that's the emphasis. So on the first slide, because the impacts on infrastructures are important, I just wanted to cover and just go back. So we just passed the REACH code in 2023. First parts, 1 and 2, involved with electrification being used in homes. The other one was, I believe, the solar aspect of it. And the third part was EV charging infrastructure. So real quick, I just wanted to cover that. This will have a big impact on the infrastructure. It's the electrification of electric vehicles in new construction. So I just wanted to cover that. Not that they have to do with fleets, but they have to do with infrastructure. So these will have big impacts. Right now, the numbers are about 75% of the dwellings will have to have electric vehicle charging for each unit. I suspect that if people are building multiple units, that they would probably put even more. They might even put 100% so that every unit would have a EV charging location. Now, they could share, but that's a little bit tough depending on how many people will have electric vehicles or how many electric or parking spaces they will have. Anyways, just that's a touch note on EV charging and the REACH code. So let's go on. Just in general, fleet electrification is a crucial step towards reducing emissions and embracing sustainable transportation. So how do we start with that? First, it takes research and education, learning about the EVs. The other one's training. The second part is assessing your fleet, driving requirements, metrics, and measurements. So those are some of the aspects of planning for electrification. The other part is charging infrastructure, investment in charging stations, collaboration with stakeholders. And the one I highlighted there is utility coordination. So they kind of have to reach out to the utilities, and sometimes we reach out to the customers as well. For utilities, there's tools to be utilized. For example, there's EPRI's e-roadmap. It informs utilities of proposed charging infrastructure that may be going up in a geographical area. Again, it's sort of voluntary, but EPRI has that e-roadmap, and it kind of shows where some EV charging infrastructure is going up. And then as we go on our daily business, we can interview or solicit information from corporations and entities, and this is when possible. And I believe I had a conversation with Commissioner Fay. One of the things is the postal office. So we'll be on the lookout for that, where they may be electrifying their fleet and they may need some infrastructure upgrades at their facilities, which will be housing these electric vehicles in Glendale. Some of the other ones would be, you know, the local college, the unified school district. Again, when opportunity provides for, you know, where possible, we would meet with them. The other aspect is financial planning and funding, securing funding. I believe our bus fleet electrification, they were able to get grants to build the building, to buy the buses, to buy the charging stations. So there is some opportunities there for the different organizations for funding their electrification of their fleet. And then budget allocations, and we do see that. We see Public Works budgeting for their bus fleet, and then also buying electric vehicles throughout for the entire city. And then, of course, one of the things that people do and provide anytime when you have programs, you do a pilot program to kind of check out and test some of your assumptions to see if those are valid. So the impacts on fleet electrification, in preparation for load growth, you know, you can do some proactive steps to prepare for that. For example, in our case, in the utility, we do the utility inspection program to address and repair or replace aging infrastructure. We're converting our 4 kV feeders to 12 kV, which will allow us to take provide 3 times the amount of power on those older feeders, and also addresses the infrastructure or aging infrastructure. We're also looking at installing local distributed energy generation. For example, our PV solar program, we're looking at some city-owned facilities, or in the future, we may be doing it through power purchase agreements as well. We're building local generation that can operate 24/7. That will include our Shoal Canyon biogas project, and that's about 10 megawatts. We're also building local renewable energy storage at our utility operations center, the 75 megawatt 4-hour battery. And then also we utilize planning and then planning tools to identify areas of load growth. So EPRI's e-roadmap will allow utilities to kind of see visually where some of the locations for electric charging infrastructure is available. We have a master planning document. We're looking at the distribution 5-year plan. In that plan, we'll be looking at the growth of our distribution system and expansion of our substations, and also consider where our load will be growing. Our integrated resource plan, our ERP, kind of looks at the future. It also predicts, based on information from the state, how many EV vehicles may be affecting local areas, such as Glendale. So there's a number there that we always work with. And then meet with customers as part of the initial reviews of large buildings, multifamily dwellings that have large EV charging electrification components. So to give you an idea, people always ask me, well, how do you know what the load is going to grow by? Well, here's a load list of the larger projects that we're putting in there, and most of these will have an EV component in there. The second item on this list, new Tesla service level 3 chargers. That's across our way at the shopping center. That's about a 1.5 megawatt load. That's a direct EV, not fleet, but EV charging. Level 3 chargers are huge. So that's where the loads are. But I want you to look at the number on the bottom. We're looking at about 35 megawatts of increases. I know we spoke a little bit about predicting what the load looks like. Well, here's an additional 35 megawatts that will be appearing on our system. Again, not everything will happen at once, not everything will be turned on at once, but we have to build the infrastructure to be able to service these customers. This is the infrastructure that we'll be putting in place to allow these customers to utilize the facilities as designed. Again, from our 2022 report from Public Works, we're looking at about 1,000 electric vehicles and some electric equipment, and that's the estimate we have for Glendale. That's sort of about the fleet size that we're looking at for electrification. Here's a picture from the website from EPRI. This is the E-road map. It kind of outlines Glendale. I kind of stretched the picture sideways, but it is a picture of Glendale, and it looks like, future years, and it puts down the information that EPRI was able to gather where the infrastructure for charging was going in. Again, we'll see it when we meet with the customers as they put in for the projects, as they ask for service. But this also gives us an idea where we should be looking at the infrastructure. Now, southern Glendale has been traditionally served by our 4 kV system. So we're looking at converting it to 12 kV. Again, what that will give us is 3 times the amount of power transfer to these facilities. So we're kind of doing it right. The conversion to 12 kV, especially in southern Glendale, will benefit fleet electrification. Just to give the Commission some insights about the level chargers and what they consume, here's some typical numbers. Level 1 chargers are 2 kilowatts. Level 2 chargers are 7 kilowatts. That's what we put on homes. A note is that 7 kilowatts is also the average load of a house. So in Glendale, an average house will be using 7 kilowatts. So by putting an EV charger in the garage, you're doubling the load of the house. And in some cases, I've had a lot of friends and acquaintances that both husband and wife or their significant other also to live here in Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, and LA. They end up putting in 2 chargers, 2 7-kilowatt chargers. And most of them would be using the cars at the same time. So they would be charging 2 cars, and in the mornings they would be driving 2 cars to work. Level 3 chargers are the ones that are changing. Originally, we would think of them as 50 kilowatt loads, 150 kilowatt loads. Now, Tesla's standard is 250 kilowatts. Again, they use software to lower the amount of charging if there's several cars at a location. So if there's 2 cars in a location where there's not enough energy, you'll be charging at half the load or half the power, 125 kilowatts. Again, this is just to give you an idea of what the charging kilowatt range is. So GWP will become the energy resource, the refinery, the gas station, and the gas company. That's what we're looking to do in this electrification of society, but also in fleet electrification. It's probably the largest component that will impact our infrastructure. And Doesn't want to move. Okay, so on the original plan for the bus fleet electrification, we were looking at 104 buses. That was from the 2022 report, but then the recent report, we got the information back. We're looking at 44. And here's an example of what the cost will be. And now this is the cost that we will charge a customer to provide the service for their infrastructure to have their fleet to be charged by GWP. So the original estimate was for 6 buses, which they want to have in 2-year period. It's about a $70,000 upgrade onto our infrastructure that we would charge them to be able to give them 1 megawatt so they can charge 6 buses. In the phase 2 plan, they're asking that 44 buses be able to be charged in their fleet. And that one, we're looking at about a 6.6 megawatt load, and that's about a $500,000 charge that we would charge the organization. In this case, it would be Public Works. There's also an estimate of the infrastructure that they need, the transformers they would need on site. That one's about $500,000. Now, the substation would also have to be the one that's going to feed them, and this is our tropical substation. We call it 4T. We're looking at an estimate of about $1 million to upgrade the feeders from that substation to provide for the 44 buses. And then there's a new transformer that needs to be installed. We're estimating about $2 million there. So we're looking at an order of $4 million or so to provide the amount of power for this infrastructure for the bus depot for 44 buses. And this is what they would pay us so that we could upgrade our system to provide them the resources needed to be able to charge the 44 buses. And this is the one example. Excuse me. Fleet electrification, Public Works went through a presentation January 30th. They have a list of electric vehicles they've purchased. They're working on a new report to update their strategic plan for electrifying the city fleet. So we're looking forward to that. These are some excerpts for you to kind of look at. And again, it's not a comprehensive report of what they have, but the final report is being redone again. So the numbers I've given you from 2022 may not reflect what the actual plan will look like once they finish this new strategic plan. Here's just the United States overall consumption of energy. One of the things that we can take away, this is from the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory. They do this annually, except the reports are 1 year behind. So the latest one is from 2022. It's interesting, 100 quads gives us the ability to kind of, there is an equivalent kilowatt hour of energy consumption. But in this case, because they also look at the heat resources from fossil fuels, but you can kind of see how the energy resources in the entire United States is being utilized. About 16 to 21% is of the U.S. is renewable, and the variation there is the biomass. If you consider biomass, which is like our landfill gas plants and stuff, we're about 21% renewable if we use that. Transportation, if you look at the numbers there, it's about 21% efficient because it uses fossil fuels as an energy source. And that can be improved because electric vehicles are a lot more efficient. So I kind of show you this to show you what the background, where we're working in terms of how technologies are used and where energy comes from, but overall energy for the country. So next slide, let's look at electric vehicles. This is where we can gain huge efficiencies. So what we notice is that if you have an electric vehicle, the numbers that we're looking in terms of efficiencies are 77% to 81% if you're full electric, because electricity is probably the most efficient way that we can transmit energy. We're looking at the other technologies, hydrogen, diesel, and petrol, and you can see the numbers are a lot less. So there is a big gain when we electrify the transportation sector. So that is a correct way of moving forward to make sure that society is a lot more efficient. Excuse me. And so in closing, electricity is the most efficient way to move energy around. It's about 90% efficient. So fleet electrification is the right thing to do. Electric transportation can be 77% efficient. You know, the efficiency is there. Electrifying is the solution to gain efficiencies and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But the electric utilities need the resources if they're going to become the energy resource, the refinery, the gas station, and the gas company of the future. And there I have the REACH code numbers for the electric vehicle charging per our REACH code. Again, not directly to fleet, but that will have a big impact on our infrastructure. And I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scorza. Any questions from fellow commissioners?
No questions. Thank you for that report, Mr. Scorza.
Thank you, Mr. Scorza, very much. A very, very incredible amount of information there. What I've been reading recently is it's estimated that about 80% of the electric vehicles charging will be done at home. And it seems to me that if we, especially with all the multifamily that we have in Glendale, that a robust program targeting EV chargers in the multifamily would put a big dent in the EV charging needs. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on. I mean, I feel like if somebody's driving a gas car now, but they move into an apartment and they see that there's numerous, EV charging stations already there, whether they're being utilized or not. I think that would encourage people to purchase, electric vehicles. I drive one. I know many of the folks here, drive electric vehicles, and I'm thrilled every time I get to charge my car at home. And I do want to take advantage of the EV charging report that was discussed earlier. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it seems to me like if it could be a build it and they will come type of strategy might be very effective.
Okay, yeah. So President Fay and Commissioner Laurie and the rest of the commission, yes, the REACH codes are kind of our blueprint. We apply them, contractors apply them, architects now apply them, and it looks like when you build new units, it's sort of a requirement. Otherwise, people may not rent your unit or buy your unit if you don't have electrical charging at home. Some of the issues are the charging stations that are available outside are tough to get. They may be full or they break down. If you have a reliable charging at home and you work in the local area, it's a big plus. And you're right, if you live in a place or rent a place or you buy a place that has charging, you will be buying more electric cars. And what I showed is the efficiency that you gain, the amount of energy used for you to do the same thing. You'll have 77% of that energy available to move the vehicle versus 16% when you use internal combustion engines. And range anxiety, being able to find a charging station is a big factor. So REACH codes will be doing that. And then fleet electrification is the bigger question for organizations to kind of look to see how they'll be utilizing electric fleets. One of the things that's coming up, just as a comment, is that electric vehicle buses or service vehicles turn out to be a little more costly. They may cost double the amount of a regular internal combustion engine service vehicle. So buses, utility trucks, will probably cost more. Some of the things we do, especially in the electric utility business, the places where we go to fix, there is no electricity. We're trying to address outages. Because some of the solutions would be, well, you're out there in the field, you just charge up and tie into the existing infrastructure. But the places where our guys would go, there is no electricity. We're restoring power. So it's a little bit tough. In those cases, you might have to have double the amount of vehicles so that one is charged and once the other vehicle needs to be recharged, you take it back and bring back the other vehicle that's fully charged. Or you can have strategically located places where you can charge up vehicles. Some of the things they're doing to address the large numbers I showed in peaks, you might put energy storage at the locations where you'll be charging, so that at the times when there is no charging, these batteries can charge up. And when people need to charge at the end of the day or at critical times throughout the day or weekends, there's always this battery backup system that can provide for the peaks so that we wouldn't have the impacts on our utility infrastructure. Those are some of the thoughts I have.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So it seems like that bus depot is a really, really big project that actually is going to be as much of a Glendale Water and Power project as it is a Public Works bus project, right? And it makes me think that what other bus depots might be coming down the pipe that we don't know about yet because they're being developed or conceived by other entities that aren't part of the city family, right? And so connecting this back to our customer engagement discussion just a second ago, maybe there's something here where we can look through our customer list and use our best judgment, which of our customers may be candidates for electric fleet conversion. And maybe we do a survey and say, are you planning to add electric vehicles to your fleet, whether you're a fleet of plumbing trucks or you're a distribution center or you're a car dealership and you have to charge a lot of cars for customers, whatever it may be, right? That might be something that's worth doing. So maybe you can work with your colleagues in the marketing team and see if we can get some more information about what other bus depots are out there. I think we've got a good handle on, what the Public Works Department's doing for garbage trucks, what we do for our own utility vehicles, what the bus depot needs. But most of the cars in Glendale are not owned or operated by the city itself. So we should get some better intel about those cars, I think. Is that something you think that we could do?
That's something that I can work with Scott. And again, the resources we have, what I was going to say, it's hard enough just to keep up with the requests of electrifying. It's so much. When they passed the REACH code, the work in our groups just grew tremendously. It's probably up by 50%. So we used to get 1,000 spots for metering. Now it's 1,500 per year, and it's going up. So just the load on us, it's a lot. So, but when we do talk to customer, we do ask that questions. One of the listed items there with the 35 megawatt, one of it is a dealer. I think it's the Honda dealer here on Brand. They're redoing their entire place. In their load, and I would assume they're doing it correctly, they're probably going to sell electric vehicles as well. They should be upgrading their facility to include the charging as well. So that's true. So, when we have opportunities, we will be more aware that these things are there as we talk with them. Some of the things we also ask is, do you need redundancy? Do you want this? Do you want two feeders? Because if it's say a hospital or some critical location, you might say, I think one of the studios has two feeders. They specifically ask for that because they can't be down if they're doing production or news or live events. They needed a reliable infrastructure, so they've asked for two feeders. And so we do look for things, and this could be one of the things we also look for as we talk with them. But I'll work with Scott to see what we can do further.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get away with anything without working with power. So I will say, you talked about redundancy. There is a concern about resiliency. So if you have a large enough load, especially with the fact that essentially what we're doing in our grid today is decentralizing our primary sources of generation, you have to work with the customer to understand the resiliency factor that they might need for their support. If they have a business and part of their business is charging vehicles and they have a goal of maintaining some progress with that business, they may have to build in resiliency, like having storage on site that's significant enough to make sure that they can bridge a gap if they have a loss of power. Or, necessarily talking about having 2 feeders go to large customers, that might work for some. And it probably worked for studios for us in Commonplace because it wasn't common, right? But as we move to large businesses become completely dependent on electrification or electrical energy in order to run, it's not practical to have 2 feeders worth of source going to every building. So that's when, as a utility, we'll have to make the transition away from a more centralized approach to energy supply and focusing on that decentralized premise, meaning that large businesses might have to have their own backup in one form or another.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that maybe we look at the vehicles themselves as a form of backup. And as we're talking about customer outreach for distributed energy resources, I'm curious if we're thinking about the infrastructure impacts of vehicles as energy storage and feeding power back either to the business or the home or maybe beyond the meter back to the grid. Is that something that we've got any work going for?
I mean, I think that goes with the R&D research that we were talking about before. Maybe Scott can.
Yeah, that's probably more on my side also. So yes, we're considering flexibility in general, whether or not there is software and command and control capability to direct cars to manage flows. We are already looking at EV chargers that will allow us to isolate them in the incident of a high peak event. It'd be much more appropriate for us to shed charging load than it would be to shed building load or resident load. So that most likely to become part of our future program for how we manage these high peak conditions. Is first thing we would do is shed charging load first. So all that has to do with it is software and command and control systems that have to be developed. Not all chargers have that capability. Not all cars will allow you to do what you need to do as far as reverse flow. So it's a much bigger issue than just Glendale. For what we can do, we can manage down to the charger, and then the cars would have to allow us that flexibility.
Those cars are coming whether we're ready for them or not.
Well, that's true.
And maybe coming back to the various programs we talked about, the public goods charge programs, at some point, our incentives for electric vehicle chargers might want to say, you get an extra incentive if your charger is, bidirectional capable or can be shut off in a high peak event or something like that. I mean, we have some leverage there that we might want to deploy to nudge our customers that direction.
True. Or going to the method that you talked about for the heat pumps is this is all we'll accept. So those are the conversations we're still having.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item is, and last item of reports is 5E, the legislative update.
President Fay, actually, that item is not part of the agenda.
Okay. Then our next item is 6, oral communications.
Decisions is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question or respond to speaker, but will be no debate or decision. The general manager may refer the matter to appropriate staff for investigation and report. Yeah, we don't have any callers or cards.
Okay. Then moving on, item 7, the agenda forecast. So commissioners, we have a printout of the agenda forecast draft in our packet. I think we're looking at the next meeting on May 6th. Mr. Obigolu mentioned a presentation from Metropolitan Water District. Is that something that I don't see listed here, but that's confirmed? Okay, so we'll We'll add that to the forecast. We have some meetings that are scheduled to be skipped because they fall on holidays in July and September. And otherwise, we'll kind of roll with things month to month as they come up. Any other changes or requests for upcoming meetings? Okay, great. Then our final item is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I motion that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Any opposition? No. Okay, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.